WO's the Founders Platinum level and below was $841 before expenses. See www.amway.com/income-disclosure for details and the most up-to-date information. Earnings depend on many factors, including customer base, business experience, effort, dedication, and quality and performance of the downline sales team. Enjoy the following message.
Hello, Legacy Leadership Collective team. This is Michael and Dana Monaco here.
Hello.
We just want to record this talk for you about the power of small wins and building consistency for a lasting change. You know, Dana, it's funny because when I think of the power of small wins, I think of belief, right? And building belief in yourself, building belief in others. And I think that sometimes when people first get started in business, they think that they have to succeed faster, right? Or they think that their goals are super high, right? I want to have massive success. You know, they set these big goals.
Right, where they think that's a positive thing, but, you know, being in business, we understand the downfall of that too.
Right, where they're like, oh, I'm going to be super ambitious, right? And they want to impress the person that has agreed to mentor them in business, and they want to impress upon that person that they're going to be successful, that they made a good choice in deciding to mentor them. And what ends up happening is you start to lose belief along the way because you don't hit those goals right away, right? Those are more long-term goals. So there's a huge difference between a short-term goal or even a small win that helps to build belief. Right? Like, I think a win to me is having 100% attendance to a GE. That's a win. Right? I think another win is showing up dressed properly. That's a win. Right? If you maybe didn't have the proper attire in the beginning, I think another win is making somebody aware of what's available. Your first person that you make aware of what's available. That's a huge win.
Absolutely. Anything that shows progress, you know, even if you hit your volume standard for the first time, you know, or your very first customer or client that you set up in business, you know, those are all little small wins.
Absolutely.
And totally necessary towards the growth of your business.
Or even if you sample out your first product, maybe you don't set up a customer, maybe they don't buy anything yet, but even you sampled out a product, that's a huge win. Because it's a habit that will over time produce bigger wins. Right. And so there's huge power in the small wins because it helps you to build belief. You know, even your first meet and greet. Maybe you set up your first meet and greet. That's a big win. Right. And obviously,
not so much where is it going to go. It's just the fact that you've done one, and when you do something one time, you realize I could do that again. You know, that wasn't so hard.
Exactly. And it's creating the habits of then doing it. And once you did it one time, it becomes easier to do it the second time, the third time, the fourth time, and so on. Right. So I think belief is the biggest thing that we need to hold on to, in my opinion, in the business, right? When I first got started 19 and a half years ago, my belief level was high because I saw a lot of success. I saw a lot of other people having success. I believed that I could succeed, and I started to have these small little wins, you know, where I reached out to a couple of buddies of mine and I had set up a couple of appointments, and I just had some of these really small wins in the beginning. I also had some losses, but I didn't focus on my losses. I focused on the wins.
Right. Well, I know something that we always say is you can't really lose. Either you win or you learn from it. And so if you look at it like a learning experience and you say, well, I'm in this for life, I'm in this long term, then it's really not losing. You're just developing a new skill set. You're learning something new. And that's going to take time. And with that, you know, you need to have grace with yourself and also just appreciate those little things that you do start to succeed at, or the things that maybe made you uncomfortable. And now, you know, you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone because that's winning.
Right. I mean, look, you could even have a small win of saving $10 a week, right, in your budget. You know, if that's something that's a win to you, or maybe you had, you know, you worked with somebody and you developed better credit, and that's a win to you. It's all these little things. Maybe you started reading again and you haven't read for a long time. That's a win. Or you're listening consistently every single day to a podcast or a talk on the app. That's a huge win.
Right. These are all great things to focus on.
All great things. And the things that we're talking about, these little wins, build consistency for a long-lasting change and development in you personally and in your business. And so the little wins make a difference because they all add up. You know, obviously, if you're listening to this audio, you probably have either read The Compound Effect before, or you've heard about reading The Compound Effect. But that's exactly what this is talking about. It's those little tiny wins that every day that add up to make a big difference over time that carry you, right? You know, it's the person that makes somebody aware of what's available once a day, every day, is going to have a lot more success, in my opinion, than somebody that makes 10 people aware of what's available one day, but never makes anybody else available again. You know, it's developing those habits and the consistency for a long-lasting development in your business.
Right. And sometimes, it's just like those small little choices that we make, but it's the consistency and then doing it over a period of time that's really going to make a difference, But what I think tends to happen is we start to look around us and it looks like everyone else is succeeding and they're succeeding so much faster and so much better, so to say, right? And who's to say what better really means? But I think we start comparing, and that's when you lose the appreciation for how much progress that you're making, because you start to look at, oh my goodness, well, someone so-and-so is just better at this, or they're succeeding at a faster rate, but you also don't know what they're doing in their business. You don't know how long they've been in business. And I think that's where it starts to become dangerous, where then we start to feel like we're failing. And feeling like you're failing is normal in the beginning because you're going to mess up and you're going to make mistakes.
It's a learning curve.
I think it becomes really dangerous when you start to look at the work that other people do. If you're not going to compare your work ethic, but you're necessarily comparing results of.
Right. Well, a lot of times most people will compare their lack of results to somebody's highlight reel, right? Like they'll see people getting recognized on stage, or they get recognized on the app for certain things, or they see people that have guests at a GE and they go, oh my goodness, and they're comparing that person's best day to their worst day.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
And because we tend to beat ourselves up a little bit. So it's important to focus on every little win and every little piece of progress along the way. You want to look at it like kind of like football, right? Where you're moving the ball down the field and you're consistently moving the ball down the field. As long as you keep moving the ball down the field in the right direction, you're eventually going to get a touchdown, right? You're going to get a first down, you're going to get a touchdown. And sometimes, even that 1 yard forward can make a big difference. I mean, if you're on the goal line, 1 yard is a touchdown. If you're on fourth down and you got 9 yards, that 1 yard, that's a touchdown. I mean, that's a first down, which gives you another 4 downs. So even the little wins are important, John Wooden used to talk about, he was the most winningest basketball coach in college basketball history, where he coached UCLA to, I think it was 14 championships in a 16-year period of time, I believe. He talked about the little wins made a big difference. He talked about how he used to teach the guys, his players, how to tie their shoes. He used to teach them how to put their socks on the right way. Right. And, how to wash their hands and, all the different things that somebody would do. And it would be so silly, how to hold the ball and things like that. But it's the basic stuff. It's the small little wins that if you get those right over time, they become second nature. Right. And that's what helps you to win big going forward in the future, because those things compound years down the line. All of a sudden you look back and you go, wow, look at all the little wins I've pieced together. And those little wins add up to a big win. So appreciate all your little wins. Appreciate all the things that help you to believe more in yourself and more in the opportunity.
And have fun doing it.
Have fun doing it.
This is a copyrighted program of The Collective.